Before we get started, just get all three candidates here. Just wanted to welcome you. We're waiting on a couple additional council members, and we will get started in just a moment. And when it is your turn to interview, we will bring you in to the panelist side of the meeting so that you will be able to see the council from in here. They'll be able to see you from in here while you're going through the interview. So we will be back in touch in just a couple minutes once we get our full attendance here.
Somebody talks, so I know mine's working.
You are all good. Great sound check, Bridget. And Mayor, and I made a quick announcement just a couple minutes ago. All three of our candidates are here. And Sarah texted a minute ago saying she will join us just momentarily. So she should be coming on within the next minute or two here. And then we'll go ahead and get started. As a reminder, Councilmember Atkins Salazar will not be here this evening for this portion or for the meeting tonight. So we'll move forward.
Erin, you're muted, but I see you're talking.
I think she's talking to audio video.
Okay, so whenever you are ready to start, Mayor, we will bring the first applicant in.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for committee interviews that are being held just before our regular council meeting this evening. Last night at the end of our budget study session, the council adjourned into closed session and there is nothing to report from that session. We will be interviewing 3 candidates for 1 vacancy on the Energy Committee. And do we have any public comment for this special meeting to hold this interview?
We do not have any public comment.
Okay, great, thank you. Well, to get started, let's welcome our first applicant, Carissa Geronimo. I will ask an opening question, and if other council members wish to ask a question, please raise your Zoom hand or real Zoom hand, and I'll call on you. And just before I go into questions, just for all of our applicants, our interviews are pretty brief. We usually ask, a couple questions. So just know that that's been our standard practice. We'll start with you, Carisse. Welcome. Can you start by sharing with us what interested you in serving on the city's Energy Committee?
Sure. Yeah. First, thank you all for having me here. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm interested because I love this community. I think that a big part of Arcata thriving is to thoughtfully consider energy needs and energy consumption. I think that that's a foundational part of this community. I think it would be a great privilege to help support the people who are trying to improve the city and make efforts in that way. And along the way, I'd also really like to learn more about local government. That's something I'm interested in. And I recently graduated from the Energy Technology and Policy program at HSU. And so coupling those two things would be a dream for me. Yeah, this would be an awesome opportunity.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions from the council? Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah. So how would you describe your ability or past history to work as part of a team, especially in a volunteer, capacity, to come to a consensus and develop kind of recommendations to the council and to the rest of the city?
Sure. Great question. I am currently in a volunteer organization right now, the 350 Humboldt one. So I'm putting a lot of energy and time into working with that committee. I'm on a subcommittee there. We do a lot of research and do a lot of have a lot of discussion about like the most relevant topics and legislature in terms of energy. I also have experience with the diversity committee at my workplace, and that was about 1.5 years of lots of movement in the social justice and equity and just a lot of workplace like safe and healthy workplace environment efforts. I feel really comfortable working on a team and yeah, trying to emphasize open dialogue and inclusivity.
Great. Thank you so much, Grace.
Thank you.
Thanks. Councilmember Goldstein.
Thanks so much for being with us tonight. I was wondering if you could share a policy or issue that you think is the most important for the Energy Committee to address going forward in the next year.
That's really good. I think that the one that I'm most excited about, I think is really important in terms of greenhouse gas, would be the transportation mode shifting. Since it is it's the majority of the emissions from the Humboldt County area. So that's something I'm really personally invested in. I'm an avid cyclist myself, and I'm really excited to see the recent connections between the Energy Committee and the Transportation Safety one. So I'd love to be a part of that subcommittee and keep fostering that dialogue and working in that space. I think the safety component is huge, as well as the emissions and just overall like happiness, healthiness of the community. That's big for me. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Great, thank you. Any other questions before we close?
Have you had a chance to attend a meeting of the committee?
The committee, no, I actually didn't know about the committee. I have been to some city council meetings, but I haven't personally attended a committee meeting. I did have a couple discussions with a committee member, and I had some of my questions answered about the logistics. And they were the ones that shared the call out to me. So I really appreciated that. I'm trying to get more into local government. Yeah, as I said, I'm a recent graduate. I'm just trying to dive right in.
Great, thank you. Well, thank you so much for applying and taking the time to talk with us, and we'll be making our decision later this evening.
Awesome, thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, next, do we have Stephen Railsback?
Should be coming in. Steve, you should be live if you can unmute yourself. Yep.
Okay, I should be appearing here in a second.
Perfect.
Yes, we can see you, Steve. Great. Well, welcome. Again, I'll begin asking an opening question, and then other council members can chime in afterwards. So, Steve, why don't you start by telling us what interests you in serving on the city's Energy Committee?
We've been in town for coming up on 30 years now. I served on the original Arcata Energy Task Force, which was the predecessor to the committee. And then since then, my career has kind of kept me busy with other things, and but I'm finding myself with a little more time on my hands now. And so I thought I would at least offer to serve on the committee.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the council?
Yeah, Steve, thank you for being here with us. I was just going to ask, how would you kind of describe some of your past work as part of a volunteer committee, and how do you work as a team to be able to come to a consensus with others and be able to develop recommendations?
Yeah, so years ago on the original task force, I think it was so long ago, I don't remember too clearly exactly what our missions were, but part of it was to decide whether or not there should be a committee and come up with some strategic ideas about what the city could be doing. And it was also a time that there were some divisive issues statewide in the energy area, and there were disagreement among the task force members, but I think we got all of our work done. We're all still friends with each other, even though we haven't served together for a long, long time. And the other thing I would say is my whole career has been working on large projects with other professionals in teams, and I've served on committees for professional organizations, etc. So I think I have good experience working together with other people.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah.
Fine.
Thanks so much for being here. I just was wondering what you would see as an issue area or a policy area of the most importance for the Energy Committee to work on in this next year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in my career, I've worked a lot on the environmental effects of different kinds of power generation. And one lesson I think I learned is that there's no such thing really as green energy. All kinds of production come with their environmental costs. So to me, that means that conservation is always a priority. So just continuing to work on ways that we can reduce how much energy it takes to live here, everything from providing conservation efficiency services for low-income people to designing the city so that we don't need to drive as much. But I also think that local generation is something we should stay focused on. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Great. Any other questions? Okay. Well, Steve, again, we keep these short and brief. Really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for applying.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Next, we have Michael Winkler, and welcome. And are you there, Michael?
You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Yes. Oh, congratulations, Sophia, on your very substantial promotion.
Thank you, Michael. Well, welcome. And I will begin by asking an opening question, and other council members can chime in afterwards. So why don't you start by sharing with us what interests you in serving in the city's Energy Committee?
Well, I mean, they're huge environmental impacts of energy use and also social justice aspects of energy use. The environmental aspect is local pollution, especially indoor air pollution, global climate change, and also that energy is a very substantial cost for the low-income people who I work with on the affordable projects that I'm so involved in. And so making it so that energy is affordable and sustainable is very important to me.
Great, thank you. Any other council members?
Yeah, I'll ask a question. And Michael, hi, it's good to see a familiar face here, and especially myself as our board representative to RCEA. And I saw in your application that you said, of course, you want to help provide recommendations to the council's RCEA board member, which is myself. But would just want to ask, how would you kind of describe your ability to work as, a member of this volunteer team, and how would you work to come to a consensus and kind of develop recommendations both to the council and to myself as a member of the RCEA board?
Well, before I was a city council member, I was on the Energy Task Force and the Energy Committee for 2 years. and I was also on the Planning Commission for 8 years. So those are very important to be able to come up with, working by consensus, finding common ground, staying within the regulations of the city and the state, and being a good listener and taking the input from all the members of the committee or the task force, and coming to things that are feasible, that are fair, that include the input from all the members of the committee or the task force. And
Great, thank you.
And remembering that these are recommendations to the city council, and the city council ultimately decides what policies to pursue.
Hi, good to see you, Michael. Same question that I've asked the other applicants. Just what do you see as the biggest issue for the Energy Committee to focus on this year?
Well, I think that the all-electric initiative, which is one of the city council goals, is important. That, as I mentioned, natural gas is a substantial pollutant contributor to greenhouse gases. And so for the city, both in its own facilities and for the homes and businesses throughout Arcata, I think it's important to move away from this fossil fuel and move to electricity, with the electricity coming from renewable sources. So I think that Arcata can join many other cities in California who are going in that direction. I think the committee can provide recommendations that are a good fit for the city of Arcata and the residents of Arcata.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, could you talk a little bit more about your work or the importance of addressing social justice with work and energy?
Well, I work in the affordable housing field, meaning that the people who live, I've worked on the order of 250 projects, affordable housing projects. So many or most of the residents of these complexes are Black and Indigenous and people of color, and these people are being underserved by the commercial market. So I think that crafting policies that aren't just good in the abstract, but also can lower the cost and can treat these people and people from underserved groups in a fair way, so that they aren't negatively impacted in our quest for some kind of global perfection on energy, that we're really focused on these people who are the most affected by the choices that the city makes.
Thank you.
Okay, well, Michael, nice to see you. Thank you for putting your name in, and as you know, we will make a decision formally later in this meeting. So thanks for taking the time. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Okay, so we have three fantastic candidates, one spot. So I don't think we have an easy task in front of us. So I do want to ask the council if there's any discussion that we'd like to have at this point prior to making an appointment later in the meeting.
I mean, I feel like I think they all gave great interviews. They're all well qualified. I do feel like Michael's the most qualified, and he's has a lot of passion for it. He's done it a long time, and I think he he has a tremendous work ethic, and he put in a lot of work to the committee, and would be a good committee member. So that's my feelings on it.
I agree. I think we have. Oh, sorry. I think we have really great, three really great applicants. I would put a vote in or speak up for Carice. I think that she's an excellent applicant. She's new to the field, brings a fresh perspective, and has really been also entrenched in diversity and social justice work, which I think is an important intersection to this field, which I know other candidates bring as well, but I really think she brings a unique perspective. And it'd be awesome to see some fresh eyes in this area with some new ideas.
yeah, it is not surprising. I think that I agree with Emily, just that I really did like the things that Chris had to say. I know that she is probably one of the more greener folks of who that applied, but she also is wildly qualified and very involved in the field, and having, I think, new and fresh perspectives is pretty essential, especially because you know, the intersectionality of energy and of, you know, climate change, and looking at those issues from a different perspective, I think is very important as well. So I do, it is a difficult decision, obviously, because we have very qualified applicants in front of us. But yeah, I agree with Emily that I think that having somebody that has a kind of fresh perspective and that also has experience working on diversity committees and also understanding the intersectionality of energy issues and climate change is very important and essential moving forward.
Okay, yeah, thank you for the input. I mean, for me, I look at you know, the makeup of our current committee, and I think we are so blessed in this community to have such great technical expertise, and we have so much. We have quite a few really seasoned, experienced committee members on this committee. Sometimes we don't have that on other committees. Sometimes there's a lot more turnover, and so I do think this could be an opportunity to bring in, you know, someone like Carice in, given that there is such institutional knowledge already in, and she obviously does come with a really strong background as well. So yeah, that's just my thought about it. So we will have an opportunity for a formal, you know, motion and any further discussion that we need to have later on in this agenda. But are there any final thoughts before we conclude this special meeting?
I just like to, I always forget to say this. I just want to strongly encourage, you know, the people that don't get picked, I always want to strongly encourage them to apply in the future, because openings do come up pretty regularly. And, you know, again, everyone's a really well qualified candidate.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Watson. That is a great point. It is, you know, sometimes we have openings, like multiple vacancies at a time, and that always makes it a lot easier. It's always hard when we have so many fantastic candidates in one position, and definitely agree to encourage people to apply again if they're not selected this time around. So, okay, well, is there anything else before we conclude this special meeting? Okay, well, thank you. We will reconvene in 10 minutes. Thank you, everyone. And thank you to everyone that applied.
Is this your last council meeting, Sophia?
I guess my last regular council meeting. We have the 24th for the budget and planning commission.
Let's make it a good one.
Yeah, you guys don't screw it up.
All right.
Just kidding. Let's do the people's work. Okay. I think we're all ready. Okay, perfect. Well, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the June 16th regular meeting of the Arcata City Council. The City Council meeting is being held as a teleconference in response to local efforts to reduce the spread of the COVID-19 virus. We are excited to see the state reopen and ask that we continue to support the decisions of individual businesses that may still require masking and social distancing so that we can safely reopen. If you wish to make public comment during the meeting, either at the 2 open public comment periods or for an individual agenda item, there are 2 ways to do so. One, if you are logged in to the Zoom meeting webinar, click on Raise Your Hand on the right-hand side of your screen. When it is your time for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, the clerk will unmute you and you will have 2 minutes to comment. You can also access this meeting by phone. You can call the number at the bottom of the screen, enter the meeting ID also at the bottom of the screen, and press *9 on your phone, and this will raise your hand. When it is time for public comment on the item you wish to speak on, the clerk will unmute your phone. You will hear a prompt that will indicate your phone is unmuted, and you will have 2 minutes to comment. So now, if you will please join me for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Pereira,
Here.
Vice Mayor Watson,
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer,
Present.
Councilmember Goldstein,
Here.
Councilmember Atkins Salazar is absent.
Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda, we have ceremonial matters. We have a proclamation designating June 20th through 26th, 2021, the week of the oyster. Whereas the Arcata downtown business community, in order to showcase Arcata's relationship to its high quality water resources and Arcata and Humboldt Bays, is producing Arcata Main Street's 31st annual Arcata Bay Oyster Festival on Saturday, June 26th, 2021, to be held virtually and as Oyster Festival Express. Arcata Main Street founded the Plaza Watershed Program and recognizes the city of Arcata and the city of Eureka's significant efforts to improve and maintain water quality in Humboldt Bay, which supports aquaculture, plant, and fish populations and many recreational activities. Whereas this year, the entire community, young and old, families and singles, are invited to live stream this online event featuring live music from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday, June 26th. Participants are encouraged to buy pre-sale oyster packages, set up viewing parties at home with tasty oysters, and virtually enjoy musical entertainment, the oyster calling and best oyster contests, children's activities, and more. There will also be a map showcasing where to find oyster specials all over Humboldt County, local beverage makers, and live music venues. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Arcata hereby designates June 20th through 26th, 2021 as the Week of the Oyster and encourages all community members to enjoy the food, fun, music, and frolic at Arcata Main Street's Oyster Festival Express. Live stream this event on YouTube through Arcata Main Street's website, arcatamainstreet.com, on Saturday, June 26th. Signed today by myself. Okay, next we have our annual report from the Parks and Recreation Committee. And this will be presented by our Vice Chair, Jane McGuire.
Hi there, and I was going to jump in there. Heather
Please,
Schmidt,
go ahead, Heather.
Staff Liaison to the committee. So thank you, Mayor and Council members. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all tonight, and we hope you had a chance to peruse the annual report as part of your agenda packet tonight, just highlighting the many programs, facilities, and other facets to the community that both the Parks and Recreation divisions oversee. I just wanted to mention that we're proud of the programming and childcare that we were able to offer to the community during the last year in the COVID shutdown. And as divisions, we're both Parks and Recreation, we're looking forward to rebuilding and continuing to reopen. And then I will again introduce Jane McGuire, who's our representative here tonight from the Parks and Recreation Committee, to further present the annual report and highlight the working plan for the coming year. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for having me. Can you all hear me okay? Okay, perfect. So as I was introduced, my name is Jane McGuire. I'm a committee member. I've been on this committee for a good number of years. I think this is my 6th year that I've been serving on this committee. Heather, you sent it to me and I didn't even read it. I think it's 6, is that right? Heather, did I lose you? Oh well. Anyway, I am a professor at Humboldt State University in the Recreation Administration program. And not only am I a professor in Recreation Administration, but I spent a career prior to becoming a professor working in the field of recreation. And so it's a field that I am very comfortable with, very familiar with, and is truly at the heart of everything that I do. So I'm honored to be able to serve on this committee and to support the development and movement of this committee. A little bit about our committee. We have 6 community members that come together. We all have very different backgrounds, and we come together all with a passion to support parks and recreation programming in the city of Arcata. We meet every other month, and I want to take a second to talk really briefly. I know my meeting time is short, but I want to take a minute to talk about the importance of parks and recreation. Parks is really easy to see. It's very tangible, right? You drive past, you see the green fields, you see the playground equipment, you see the spaces. And so parks are easy to understand. I think too often we overlook recreation. Recreation is the programming side of the house. It's the what we offer. It's the how we connect with the people. Not the space necessarily, but the programs that bring people to the space. And parks and recreation work together in a very integral way. And so the city's, the recreation division, Parks and Recreation Division, their motto is creating community through people, parks, and programs. And I think that's a very fitting statement. Parks and Recreation truly do create better community by bringing people together. They have the power, Parks and Recreation programs have the power to strengthen community image, to develop a sense of place. And we know through research that when people have a sense of attachment to place, they also have an increased engagement in their community and increased stewardship of the spaces around them. A perfect example of that is Greenview Park. That's a neighborhood park that has really developed a sense of pride in our community. I want to add that it is the first fully accessible playground space north of Santa Rosa. Now, since this park has been put in, other communities are developing parks, and actually, just as a sort of a sense of awareness, the city of Eureka has not just a proposal, but a plan in place to replace every one of their parks and make them all fully inclusive. And so I think that sets a nice target for us. It's great to be the first, but I think we need to continue to make our spaces inclusive. Parks also create cultural unity, closing gaps and creating opportunities for more inclusion in our communities. I want to take a second to point out the programs like the Young Athletes Program through Special Olympics that brings children with and without disabilities together to develop motor skills and develop friendships. Also, we partner with the university and the local high schools. The city of Arcata does to host Special Olympics bocce tournaments, and we're excited to get that back on track this fall. Another example outside of the city of outside of the city of Arcata is McKinleyville's new teen center that was built with the premise of bringing people together to build unity and inclusiveness. And so just using our community around us, I want to emphasize the importance of parks and recreation. Also, Parks and Recreation supports economic development like the Oyster Festival, as was just discussed. Another little highlight I want to point out outside of Arcata is the new Skywalk in Eureka. The Skywalk in Eureka, I went the other day for the first time. It was packed. And so they're bringing people in. It's generating revenue. It's generating excitement. And so I think as a city, we can be thinking about opportunities like this to be able to continue to expand, drawing people into the city of Arcata, for instance, like the development in Redwood Park. Parks and Recreation also keeps older adults healthier and help them stay socially connected to allow them to stay in their homes and in our communities longer. And I think that's really important as well. Another interesting side note is parks actually increase our property values and neighborhood desirability. And so that's true across the board. And then the nicer the parks are, the more modern the parks are, the increased desirability of that neighborhood as well. And also parks increase and develop foster youth development. Example of that is like the 0 to 1 playgroup program we have, which is a collaborative venture with the first 5 of Humboldt and an ACES collaborative partnership grant. I want to take a moment to recognize that the Parks and Recreation staff are doing an amazing job with the very limited resources that they have. And so much more could be done. And I know this is true for every department. So much more could be done if there was more funding. And so I get that. But I just want to say that they are doing an amazing job and they're operating on a very shoestring budget. So on to the report. Last year, even through COVID, recreation programs were still keeping our community coming together. We had 31 unique recreation programs take place during the year. And through those programs, we generated $167,000 in total revenue. Summer camp last year served 1,483 youth in our community. And then with changes in school and school attendance, we also offered fall camps, and that generated an additional 267 unique participation points, so unique people participating in that. The 0 to 1 playgroup adjusted their offerings last year during COVID to include opportunities to participate from a distance as well as outdoor meeting spaces, and they continue to offer very high rate of services. Last year, we saw the start of the art on the fence installation, which I think was a really lovely and very visible reminder of parks and recreation in our community. We also saw a MOU developed between the City of Arcata and the Redwood Coast Mountain Bike Association. So those are some of our highlights. Oh, also we celebrated the development of the futsal court. So that's some of the stuff that happened last year. And just a few of the things, you have the report. I'm sure you can read all of those details there, but those are some of the things that as a committee, we are particularly proud to see happen. Some of our goals for next year, we're really excited about seeing programs reopen and special events reopen in our community. Again, to continue to build that connection with people. We're looking at exploring options to increase services in the Valley West area, Redwood Park renovations, development and upgrade of the Forsyth track, including disc golf and mountain biking trails. Last year, we saw the completion of the Plaza Improvement Task Force, and among those recommendations was increased programming on the plaza. And so as we start to come back together in physical space together as a community, we're looking to increase programming on the plaza. Carlson Park development, complete the Shea Park project, increase teen programming, explore programming for adults with disabilities. And then there's several neighborhood parks that we're looking to develop. So in order to do all of those things, obviously budget is so important. I want to take a second to highlight the staffing that's happening, the lack of staffing, the difficulty with staffing that we're having right now in Parks and Recreation. I'm not sure if you know, there's currently formerly two recreation supervisors in position right now. And one of those is really doing 2 jobs. And so it's difficult. It's difficult to manage doing 2 jobs, and one of those being running summer camp. We also have another one of our former rec supervisors who is now a parks supervisor who's really managing 2 jobs as well. And so I know I was looking at the proposed budget for next year, and I just want to stress it's so important in order to do the job, we need the people to do the jobs. And so I know it's a shameless plug, but it's an important plug. Funding is necessary to meet the needs of our community. Funding is necessary even to support partnerships and grant opportunities. And funding is necessary to carry out the mission of creating community through people, parks, and programs. So that's the report. Any questions for me?
Thank you, Jane. Let's see, are there any questions from the council?
I have some questions.
Mhm.
I'm looking at your comprehensive work plan for the upcoming year on packet page 30. And was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the additional recreation improvements to Valley West.
I can talk about them in the sense that, that there's been comprehensive studies done on the area, and there's tentative plans. Heather might be in a better position as a committee member. I've seen the proposed plans in development in the area, but it's all very tentative at this point, based awaiting funding, as I understand it. But Heather, you might be able to answer that.
Sure. I mean, I think a big part of that focus is Carlson Park, and we are waiting to hear if we've been awarded a grant, which we should with the California Prop 68, and we should be hearing on that at the end of the summer. And other grants in the wings, depending on if that funding will come through. So obviously that funding does focus on the development of Carlson Park. And then, I think over the past few years, there's definitely been talk of different options of ways that we could offer additional programming within the Valley West. A lot of that has been contingent on having a space to do so. But, I think that we're seeing that it's a priority not only of the council, but of the community. And so as we rebuild, it's a time for us to sort of reevaluate what those priorities are, even if it's offering something like young athletes or program or other events on the basketball court. So, there's a lot of options on the table, but a lot of it we've been waiting to hear on those major grants for Carlson Park.
Thanks. And then looking at number 5, where you talk about generating additional revenue to support city parks, facilities, and recreation programs. I was just wondering what were you guys exploring in addition to the residential construction tax you've listed?
So that would come back to, like Heather was saying, the grants that we've been writing, and even the opportunity to explore future grants as well, and partnerships and collaborations. Again, there are several grants in the works. And so, like Heather was just mentioning, in the Valley West area.
Okay. Yeah, I guess when I was thinking of revenue, I was thinking of stuff that wasn't grants, but that sounds fine.
I count grants as revenue as well.
Okay.
It's dollars coming in.
And then number 8, could you give an update on Measure A?
I don't feel equipped to do that. Heather, can you give an update on Heather?
I'd be happy.
As a committee member, I don't have those details.
I'd be happy to give a quick update on Measure A. So we have gotten all of the parcel data information together for Measure A, and that has gone to the county to do that initial assessment of the open space, parks, clean water, trails ballot measure that was passed last November. So this will be the first year that is billed out. In your budget that you reviewed last night, there's $172,000 of anticipated revenue based on the parcel list that was supplied to the county. And of that, there is $150,000 of that was earmarked for the Fickle Hill Trail, the Fickle Hill Road, and connection into the Sunnybrae Trail as that project is the initial funded project for Measure A this year.
Great. Everything sounds good. Thanks everybody for all your work.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Heather, did you have something you wanted to add? Okay. Well, seeing no other questions from the council, I just really want to express my gratitude. Jane, you're a fantastic representative of the Parks and Recreation Committee, also one of our amazing committees that have great institutional knowledge. Thank you for bringing your expertise. I think what you shared in your report is not only a benefit here to the council, but I think for the community to see the value of Parks and Recreation. And Heather, just grateful for the work that you've been doing to keep things afloat. And I will say, as a new mom, the isolation that new mothers experience in general, having it amplified in COVID, just really appreciate the efforts to provide play group and meeting opportunities for mothers of young children. So just want to express my gratitude on that front as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Okay. Next, we are on to early oral communications. This is a 15-minute time period provided for people to address the council on matters not on the agenda this evening. At the conclusion of all oral communications, the council may respond to statements. Any request that requires council action will be set by the council for a future agenda or referred to staff. Speakers addressing the council at this time are limited to 2 minutes, and we can take up to 7 speakers. Please raise your hand if you are on Zoom, or press *9 if you are calling in by phone and wish to make a comment. Do we have any public comment?
We do have public comment. Our first speaker will be screen name Emily, and we have Kristen in line after that. Please go ahead, Emily. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I wonder what happened to the 3-minute time limit, but I will take my 2 minutes. My name is Emily Mossman Smiley, and it has been 4 years and there is still no justice for David Josiah Lawson. The Lawson family deserves justice, and the community is not safe until law enforcement, Arcata City staff and City Council, and the Humboldt County's DA office correct the negligence that is abundant in this case. The strong undercurrent of white supremacy in this community is the reason why Josiah Lawson's killer is not currently behind bars. It is time that the City Council take it upon themselves to fix these wrongs. Join the struggle in getting Maggie Fleming out of her position. Defund the police and invest that money into social programs that the community actually needs and will benefit from. And do everything in your power to get this case seen again and demand that justice is served. Now is the time for you to join the struggle. Now is the time for you to make some real change in this community for the better. If you don't join the struggle, I will know on which side of white supremacy that you stand. You are either complacent with the white supremacy in our community, or you are willing to work to dismantle the white supremacy in our community.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you. Next, we have Kristen. Please go ahead, Kristen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Kristen Orth-Gordonier. I'm a graduate student at Humboldt State University in the Environmental Science and Management Department, where I'm working with Dr. Lori Richmond in her Human Dimensions Research Lab. I'm also a planner at Greenway Partners, working with Alderon Laird and Humboldt County Long Range Planning staff on a feasibility study that's funded by the California Coastal Commission to look at regional coordination of sea level rise adaptation planning. As a part of my thesis research, as well as the county study, we recently sent a survey to staff and elected officials of local agencies and organizations, such as the City of Arcata, that could be involved in a regional sea level rise planning effort. If you received the survey, we would really appreciate your participation. We have had some technical difficulties with our survey platform, which is SurveyMonkey, interacting with spam detectors. So we will be sending out another link tomorrow morning to people who haven't accessed the survey yet. If you started it via SurveyMonkey, the SurveyMonkey email, please use that original link. We did send out another reminder email on Monday. If you don't receive the survey by tomorrow morning, but are interested in taking it, please contact me. My email is kmo29@humboldt.edu. And the survey will be closing on the 20th, and we greatly appreciate any time you can take to participate and are excited to hear your input. Lastly, just wanted to tell the public who may be watching this and are interested in sea level rise, the county also released a different survey for the public about sea level rise and would love to hear your input. No matter where you reside, even if you don't live right on the coast, your feedback is incredibly valuable. If you're interested in sharing your thoughts with local planners about sea level rise, you can access the survey by Googling Open Town Hall Humboldt Sea Level Rise, or on the county's Facebook page. They posted it in late March, and Local also posted it in late March. So that is it. Thank you so much for your time and hopefully your participation in the surveys. If you have any questions, again, you can contact me at kmo29@humboldt.edu. Thank you.
Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you. Checking if there are any more public comment for items not on the agenda tonight. Seeing no more public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next on our agenda is the consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of any of these items. If discussion is required, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. At the end of the reading of the consent calendar, council members or members of the public can request that an item be removed for separate discussion. So I'll go through and read the consent calendar. Item A, approve the minutes of the City Council meeting of June 2nd, 2021. B, biweekly report on general warrants. C, adopt ordinance number 1546, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Arcata amending zoning regulations pertaining to formula restaurants, waive reading of the text and consent to read by title only. D, direct the city manager to sign the fiscal year 2021-22 Humboldt State University ridership agreement. E, accept $15,000 in donations for commemorative benches in the Arcata Community Forest. F, approve sending a letter of support for reauthorization of the Federal Transportation Act to include Amtrak support for rural areas. And lastly, G, continue the fiscal year 2021-2022 proposed master fee schedule public hearing from the initial date of June 16th, 2021 to June 24th, 2021. Is there any member of the council that would like to remove an item for separate discussion? Okay, seeing none, is there any member of the public or staff that would like to request an item be removed from the consent calendar?
Item C has been requested to be removed. I don't actually think that the request to remove it is pertaining directly to the ordinance itself, but to the additional direction that the council provided at the last meeting in regards to applications that were coming in during the rulemaking process. But I would suggest that we pull item C, and then I can explain that, although I know you've all received many emails as well.
Okay.
We also have a member of the public. I
think that's for item C. Yeah.
Just double checking.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Okay. Let's see. Do we have a motion on the consent calendar minus item C?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar minus item C.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote by roll call. Councilmember Goldstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Watson.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion passes. So let's go to item C. I'll turn it over to Karen.
Yeah, thank you. So many of you received correspondence in regards to, there were 3 potential formula restaurants that had come in as inquiry or to put in permits during the rulemaking process where we were changing the text of this ordinance. One of them, after your direction at your last meeting, that basically provided a 45-day period, the 2 weeks between the last meeting and this meeting, and then the 30 days that will start tomorrow until the new ordinance effectively is in place. And the discussion at that meeting was that any of those applicants that had come in during rulemaking that could make a complete building permit application could continue their way then through the process if they made it within that period. One of those applicants does not believe they could make a full building permit application. Staff reviewed their needs for permits and just wanted to clarify with the council. The first step because there are two, as you probably recall, that are just tenant improvements. There's already constructed facilities on site. There was one that will be fresh construction from ground level up. It's the one of the fresh construction from ground level up in the Valley West area that has requested additional time. I think within the spirit of the council's conversation, their first step would be a planning permit. It would not be the building permit at their first stage. So again, this is not part of your ordinance adoption tonight, but we did want to make sure that the council would be comfortable if staff accepted the complete planning permit application as their first step to make it sort of in that door to provide additional time to finish building permitting construction moving out from there within the window of that next 30 days from now. So I think that is the issue. We do have, it looks like, several people that may want to make public comment as well on that, but I think that is the core of the issue. And if that is the will of the council, then I think that, you know, that issue is resolved for that applicant. They still need to hustle. They'll still need to get in their design review permit. They'll have to have, you know, designs, you know, just at some level ready to go, and they'll have to have that complete application in. So they'll still have that step that we would hold them to. But we do believe they could make that deadline if they hustled and pulled it together. So.
Okay, thank you. Why don't we just open up to public comment first and then bring it back to the council for any further discussion.
Any public comment on this item, please raise your hand. Okay, we do have public comment. Larry, go ahead, please. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you for time, council, and thank you, Karen.
You're really low.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's just very faint.
It is?
Yes.
Sorry. I will do my best. Is that any better?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Although one of the team members of the company may participate in the meeting, I will provide you some info received. Her name is Kelly. If she does respond tonight, and or if you have any questions, you may address them to her. I would tell you that I'd like to mention that the business that we're working with would anticipate serving about 300 or more customers per day at the Arcata location that is proposed. As of 2021, there are more than 70 shops open in California, and these shops support 2,700 plus jobs. The Arcata location alone will provide 30 to 35 new jobs for the community. The company also takes enormous pride in investing and giving back to the communities where they operate. Through their foundation, the company donates several $1 million to its local communities and nonprofit organizations each year. In addition, they have 3 company-wide give-backs. One is called Love, one is Drink One, and one is for Dane and for Bucking Kids. The local shops hold give-backs, donating 1% of monthly sales to support nonprofit organizations within their specific areas. As well, I wanted to mention to you that it's pretty well known in the public that Humboldt State is going to become a polytech and looking to double the enrollment size within the next 3 to 5 years, which provides strong growth, and the students enrolling in Humboldt need jobs. This formula restaurant provides jobs just as a formula-based retailer like Tractor Supply does. Tractor Supply has provided a choice for Arcata.
Larry, thank you. Your 2 minutes are done. Thank you. And feel free to, if you need to follow up in writing.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Is there any more public comment for this item? We do have another public comment. Kelly, if you could go ahead, please.
Yes, hello, this is Kelly Sparkman, and I'm speaking on behalf of the prospective user of this property that we're speaking of. So I think what Larry stated is exactly basically what I wanted to say, but I will add a little bit onto that. So, we are a privately held company, so I'm not able to provide forecasted sales or anything of that manner that you can relate to tax revenue. But I will say with the customer served daily, we will definitely be providing sustainable revenue for the city. And that applies even during pandemic times, which we've been going through in the last year and a half, as everybody knows. One thing to add on to what Larry had stated is in the state of California, we are contributing $119 million to California's economy annually, and that's via compensation, taxes, and charitable giving. As Larry also mentioned, basically giving back to the community is extremely important to our company. The amazing people that operate our shops who do live locally, as he stated, give 1% of their sales to local charities. And that's in addition to the multiple give back days that Larry mentioned. So truly our goal is to become a part of the community in which we serve. And we just look forward to doing that in the city of Arcata. And I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Any other public comment for this item? Emily, please go ahead. You'll have 2 minutes.
Thank you. This is a suggestion for the speaker that just spoke. The giving of 1% to local charities is great, but another great thing that you could do is give 1% to the local tribe of which you occupy the land of. This is called an honor tax. So please look into this. As a business, it would bring positive feedback.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? No more public comment, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'll bring it back to the council. Let's see, any initial thoughts, Councilmember Goldstein, or comments or questions?
I hate when I have to go first.
I did it again, but sorry.
I know, I'm like thinking. Yeah, I mean, I think that we've kind of talked about that we can't make a decision based on an individual business for good or bad. And so while it's great that the speakers presented that they give back to the community and all of those great things, we can't actually make it. It's either it is or not. It could be a business that doesn't give anything to the community, and we couldn't really make a different decision in terms of, as far as I'm concerned, of what like the law says we can make our decision off of. So I appreciate you all that called in. But I think our decision just kind of has to be based off of what we feel is most true to our discussion last time. So that would just be my only thought, is that that's kind of where we're left with.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess just to give kind of authority over this conversation that we had and kind of conversations that I've had with our city manager, and just after reading a lot of the comment that has come in from these folks that are concerned about this item, it sounds pretty doable that this planning permit could be accepted and could be completed within 45 days. And I think that does sound completely fair in this situation, because this process has already begun for this business, and they have, begun looking at this space and creating, something that is going to go here. I think I would feel very comfortable with accepting this planning permit as, that first step for this business coming in. But I do feel that we should, per our last discussion, stick to that 45 days, like we spoke about with, applying to the other restaurants as well. So I guess just to, provide my opinion here, I think that it is I think it would be fine to accept that planning permit and that first initial step of, yeah, we have come in, we have put our name in the ring, we are planning on creating this business. Though I know it is a little bit more of a process for these folks because, it is out of the area that they have to bring in architects, et cetera, to get more detailed plans. But their plan has been, placed before us and has been, in discussion with our community development department and with our city. And so I think accepting that planning permit, like City Manager Deemer said, and then also within this 45 days would be what I would feel comfortable with.
Okay, thank you. And Vice Mayor Watson.
I just want to make sure this is all really clear to the council. I don't want, something to happen and then everyone's like, how did that happen, I guess. So just the difference between a permit and an application and whether or not this would affect the cap. So those would be my questions.
Okay, so let me clarify. We have the cap in the ordinance, which you do still need to adopt tonight, so we don't want to forget that step, but we'll still cap at 9. With the result of the applicants that had come in to either speak to the council or staff during this rulemaking process, we would, if all 3 of them met a complete application for their first stage permit, we're down to 30 days, right? Because it'll be 30 days from tomorrow. If all 3 of those, and to be honest, the Domino's Pizza applicant has already met, or one of them has already met a complete building permit application. So, but if the other 2 both met their complete applications, then we could, for a period, if they both continued through construction, we could have 10 for a period of time. Your ordinance, as you've chosen to word it and adopt tonight, would still leave that cap at 9. So when we lost a particular restaurant, we would hold them at that cap of 9. Does that answer everything, Vice Mayor Watson?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hearing different, I'm hearing permit and then Councilmember Schaefer, Councilmember Schaefer referred to it as a permit a couple times, and then I'm also hearing application. So it's an application for a permit and it's not the permit.
Absolutely. It's an application for a permit. It's a complete application, either for a building permit or for a planning permit, that in essence shows the due diligence during this rulemaking period that you've come in as an applicant. Go ahead, Councilmember Schaefer.
Well, and I'm kind of just remembering of a previous conversation that I had, that the application for the planning permit is probably an easier goal to reach for this particular business than an application for a building permit, correct? And that's why we're talking about, this option as the first hurdle to reach, as opposed to, having a completed application for everything.
Right. For an applicant,
sure I'm understanding correctly.
Yeah, for an applicant who doesn't already have a pre-existing structure. The other 2 businesses are proposing to be located in pre-existing structures that are already built. So for them, it would be a building permit application for what we call tenant improvements. It would be that complete application because that would be their only next step. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Councilmember Goldstein.
So then I guess my question would be, does this open us up to any problems going forward? Because we are making an exception for 1 out of the 3 businesses, either with the other 2 businesses currently, or if the similar issue arose in the future, is making an exception going to create problems for us?
Shall I step in, Karen?
Sure, if you'd like to.
I think the exception needs to be stated in the abstract so that anybody who comes in during the next 30 days that has a complete permit, whether it's a planning permit or a building permit, would be grandfathered in. And I think what Karen has given you is an overview of what staff views as the practical reality and the numbers that are out there that are ready to have the permit come in. And so you're making an exception, not necessarily just for these, but for anything that comes in complete in the next 30 days.
So again, I'm hearing a difference between permit and application. So Nancy's saying permit.
Complete permit application. I'm
Okay.
sorry, Brett.
Okay.
I'm
No, that's
glad-
okay.
Yeah, I'm
Cool.
glad you caught that.
Okay.
A complete permit application.
All right. I just want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay, I do, however, want to clarify that when we reviewed sort of where things stand, I can't identify another location where we have an opening in our current ordinance that would allow for yet another application for a permit to come in. So I don't think you're opening a wide window here. I think that we're done at this point with even accessible slots for permit applications to come in. Since the, I mean, and I guess I can say since the one completed one we have has taken the one position that's still in Northtown, right? So that would have been kind of sort of the one open slot, but that is now has a complete application in that we'll go through first. So anything else would come in. If something else came in say Northtown, then that would be in line after that, but would not be processed. That probably just added confusion.
Oh, I think following basically that with the current number of business formula restaurants that we already have and the applicants, that could potentially have a complete permit application, that there wouldn't be any more room to fill a vacant spot in terms of the current rules that we have. And well, first off, is there any? I guess I'll just add my thought. I think it's also helpful to note that when we talk about a formula restaurant ordinance, this is creating, design standards. So a formula restaurant could open up with, let's say there's a Starbucks and they wanted to open up a restaurant or excuse me, a coffee shop in Arcata, and they chose to not follow their formula restaurant practices of the standard menu, the standard uniform, the standard logo. They could open up in Arcata. The point of the ordinance is to say, we want to cap the number of formula restaurants that are that cookie cutter, but that doesn't preclude a business from coming in and creating a unique destination in our community. So I feel it's important to just note that for those that may not fit into the number of openings that we have, that technically if you want to provide a different menu and a different uniform and create something unique in Arcata, you can do that. Any other questions, or do we have a motion, or do we need to give some clear direction to staff here?
So it sounds like the question to me is a permit, is it okay that the permit gets turned in within the time frame? And I'm fine with that.
You mean application?
Thank you. That's exactly what I mean. Thank you.
It's an application
backs.
for a permit,
Yeah.
correct? Like that. So that's why we're using these interchangeably, right? It's an application for a permit.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a permit.
It's not a permit, but it's an application for it.
And if you do nothing, then there's just 30 days of scramble to see who has permits and who doesn't at the date the ordinance goes into effect. And those who have permits are in before the ordinance went into effect, and those who don't are out. So you're really discussing whether you want to create an exception around this completed application.
Okay, and I think that you did address, you did set that standard at your last meeting for the completed application. It's just whether or not both a building and or a planning would count for that, I think is the question tonight. And then let's not forget to adopt the ordinance.
Okay, well, are there any objections to that recommendation by staff, that clarification?
Can we clarify that clarification real quick?
Yeah, just that, for those 3 businesses that have come forward in the rulemaking process, they need to get a completed application for either a building or a planning permit to be considered, in essence, grandfathered in to move through the process. It doesn't guarantee them opening, but it guarantees them, to go through our process. They've done their part, in essence, to get into the process in time. And that will be 30 days from tomorrow.
Then that leaves it open to where anybody that can turn in, like a 4th or 5th applicant could also turn in applications, right? And they'd be guaranteed.
Not based on, because we have a completed application in for the one Northtown opening. I just don't see, we don't have another opening that slots for that. So I don't think that you're opening up for a 4th and a 5th on a practical level. Right.
So yes, it would be possible, but it's highly unlikely and not probable, basically. If somebody scrambled together and decided, okay, we're going to build a, whatever, the KFC in Valley, whatever it could be, but that's highly unlikely in this situation with only a small window, correct?
Yeah, and it's the way the count goes that I think already precludes the majority of that. Based on our current ordinance that's in place right now, that then strengthens in 30 days when the new ordinance comes into place. I would say, for example, if we did not have a spot pending in Northtown right now that had a complete application in, then I would say another business in Northtown could come in. But right now we have a completed application in that will go through that process. So if another one came in for Northtown, they would not be processed at this point until that one went through, right? Based on our current ordinance that's in place right now today. So I think that's where we've sort of closed the window at this point.
Okay. Well, why don't we do the easy part? Can we just approve item C, and then if we need to have any further discussion about the guidance, we can at least take that off our to-do list. So do we have a motion for item C?
Oh, sorry, I was going to say yes. I move that we adopt ordinance number 1546, an ordinance of the City Council of Arcata amending zoning regulations pertaining to formula restaurants, waive reading of the text, and consent to read by title only.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote by roll. Councilmember Goldstein.
Aye.
Councilmember Schaefer.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Watson.
Aye.
I vote aye as well. Motion passes. And then any further discussion about staff's recommendation for this 30-day period that starts tomorrow? Do we have consensus that that is the direction we want staff to go in?
I agree with staff's recommendation.
Okay.
To allow the planning application for a planning permit for said business in Valley West.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Do we need a motion or are we good?
No, you don't need a motion. Yeah, you didn't do this by
I'm good
motion
with it,
until last meeting. It's just making sure we've got direction. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, I think we have a consensus for you. Thank you. Okay. Let's move on to new business. Appoint one new member to the Energy Committee for a term expiring September 30th, 2023. Do we have any recommendation, or excuse me, a motion to recommend appointment from a member to the Energy Committee?
I'll make a motion. I move to appoint Carice Geronimo to the Energy Committee.
Second. And then add the term.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. As ending a term expiring September 30th, 2023.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any members of the public wanting to comment on this item?
No public comment on this item.
Okay, thank you. And I'll call the vote by roll call. Councilmember Schaefer.
Aye.
Councilmember Goldstein.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Watson.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion passes. And congratulations, Carice. And thank you again to our other fantastic applicants. Definitely encourage folks to apply if other opportunities come up. So thank you, everyone. Okay. Next, we have item B, public hearing to consider adoption of resolution number 201-59, adopting the City of Arcata 2020 updated urban water management plan and water shortage contingency plan. May we have a staff report from Environmental Services Director Sinkhorn.
Yes, thank you, and good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. So the city's 2020 urban water management plan has been developed to document our water supplies, demands, and conservation efforts. So this is really intended to be a long-term planning tool to ensure water supply reliability for our over 20,000 customers here in Arcata and also the Jacoby Creek Water District, and in particular for periods of drought or water shortage. And so the plan is updated and adopted every 5 years in accordance with California Water Code. And the Water Conservation Act of 2009 set a statewide goal of reducing urban water use by 20% by 2020. So baselines were established and interim targets set within the last 2 urban water management plans and updated within this 2020 plan. So target water use for 2020 was determined at 113 gallons per capita per day. And the actual daily water use in our service area is 84 gallons per capita per day, so well below the target. New for 2020 is a requirement to adopt the water shortage contingency plan. And this really provides the city with a structured action plan for dealing with drought or catastrophic water supply shortage. So updates to our wholesale supplier, Humboldt Bay Municipal Water District, updates to their water shortage contingency plan have been reflected in the city's plan. And so this includes 6 water shortage levels and corresponding response actions should we need to utilize them. And these water shortage contingency plan shortage levels are really triggered by storage at Ruth Lake. And currently Ruth Lake is nearly at full capacity as our region is one of the few geographic areas in the state with a local abundance of water. And so that's a summary. And unless the council has questions at this time, I recommend to conduct a public hearing on the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan and Water Shortage Contingency Plan, and then consider adoption of resolution number 201-59, approving both plans.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I'll ask for questions from the council, starting with Vice Mayor Watson.
I don't have any questions, thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Goldstein.
No questions, thank you.
Councilmember Schaefer.
No questions, thank you, Director Sinkhorn.
And I don't have any questions as well. So let's see if there's any members of the public wishing to comment on this item.
For members of the public that would like to comment on this item, a reminder, if you're logged on to this to Zoom, click on raise your hand on the right-hand side of your screen. And if you've called in via phone, press *9. When it is your turn to speak, the clerk will unmute you and invite you to speak. You will have 2 minutes to speak. Is there any member of the public that would like to comment on this item? No public comment for this item.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, do we have a motion?
I just noticed I didn't see anything about this in my packet. Was this in the packet?
It is right at the end. So it's pages 121 through 125. Do you have that?
I see, mine just got separated. Okay, thank you.
It's just short, right? That's, yeah. There's not, okay. I was like, am I looking at the right thing too? I was like, it's right here.
I'll make a motion So wait, do we need to continue the public hearing or no?
No.
All right, to adopt resolution number 201-59 approving the 2020 Urban Water Management Plan.
A second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll call the vote by roll call. Vice Mayor Watson.
Aye.
Councilmember Goldstein. Aye. Councilmember Schaefer.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. Motion passes. Thank you, Director Singhorn. Okay, next we are at oral and written communications. This time is provided for people to address the council on matters that are not on tonight's agenda. Please raise your hand if you are on the Zoom webinar, or press *9 now if you are on the phone line and you would like to make a public comment. Speakers are limited to 2 minutes. When it is your time for public comment, the clerk will unmute you and invite you to speak. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment?
Giving a moment to check for any public comments and seeing none.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will move on to council and staff reports. Are there any staff updates?
Yeah, thank you. I did want to do a quick update because we've been getting a lot of calls and questions from the media and the community, first in saying congratulations to our Mayor, Sophia Pereira, who is heading to lead the Public Health Division of Department of Health and Human Services at the county, and what that means for the position and the vacancy. So I just wanted to share with the community, because I think all of the council knows this at this point, sort of what that process looks like, and then at the point that you will be discussing this as a council. So when a vacancy occurs, the council basically has two options and really kind of a 60-day timeline to decide on how to act. The council may either appoint a successor or to call a special election to fill the vacancy. So given the time frame, we have just kind of counted through the numbers, and there's a lot of numbers associated with the code that I will not go into tonight. But option one would be within 60 days from the vacancy, if the council wished to appoint a successor, the council would seek a process, and we would go through an appointment process, which would be up for the council. Usually begins with a call for applications to begin the appointment process. And then we go through an interview, at least one night of interviews. And then we go through an appointing process. So given that this position will become vacant on June 25th, the option would require an appointment to be made on or before August 23rd. And then given the fact that Mayor Pereira is leaving in the second half of this position, then that appointed council member would fill that position until the election of the position, which would be November of 2022. Option two is that the council technically you have 60 days to call a special election. In the case here, given the next regular election is November 2nd, and we do need 114 days prior to that to call the election. And then given the County Board of Supervisors summer schedule, we would need to let the county know by June 25th whether or not we want them to consolidate and have a special election on that November 2nd ballot. So those are really just the two basic options that'll be before you. And we will add an agenda item to talk about these on June 24th so that you do have all the range of options in front of you to make that decision on that night. So I just wanted to share that and congratulate our mayor.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, Councilmember Goldstein, any updates?
No, just want to say congratulations to you, and that we're going to miss you a lot. I'm going to miss you a lot, and I'm probably equally sad for us and for myself, and happy for you. So congratulations. It's a great position.
Thank you, Councilmember Goldstein. Let's see, Councilmember Schaefer.
Per usual, what Councilmember Goldstein said, just to reiterate that, congratulations, Mayor. But nothing to report other than that. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Vice Mayor Watson.
I have a question about the staff report. So if the council decided on June 24th that they wanted to hold an election, the staff would have enough time?
We will. We'll have everything prepared sort of either way. I mean, you just need to pass one resolution that asks the county board for a consolidated election. So we have a template of that. That'll be in your packet that night on the 24th. And then we'll just have an outline of what a timeline would look like if you wanted to go through an appointment process. So yeah, you should have all that.
Okay, so the 24th is our budget meeting, right?
It is.
So are we going to call another special meeting to talk about this?
Okay, right now the intent was to do it all in that night.
Sure, I know, but I'm saying that night. Don't we technically have to call a special meeting to talk about it?
You have a special meeting now. It'll be one special meeting, and part of that will be review of the budget. Part of that will be this agenda item, and then you've got a study session with the Planning Commission on that.
I see. So the agenda's not out yet, so we have time to put it on the agenda.
Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Cool. That makes sense. Cool.
But thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, definitely. Big congratulations to Sophia. It's been a pleasure working with you the last few years, and I'll definitely miss you. So hopefully see you around.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll still be around, just different roles. So I'm sure we'll still get to work together in some capacity, everyone. So thank you. Just in terms of business reports, Humboldt Waste Management Authority, they are still going through the executive director recruitment process. So I don't have any update to share on that front. Trying to think if there was anything else noteworthy. We passed another balanced budget, so that's always good. Okay, and gosh, I feel like I said everything I needed to say in my letter to the community. I know we have a jam-packed agenda next Thursday, so it feels kind of weird to be like, oh, this is my last meeting, but it's the last regularly scheduled council meeting. So I just really, grateful for this opportunity to serve in this role. It doesn't feel real yet. So just serving on this council for over 6 years has just been an incredible honor. The things that we've gotten to work on, things that I've learned from every single person that I've interacted with here on this council. I'll leave it at that. I'm not going anywhere, just different role. Let's move on to dates of future meetings. A special meeting to hold a study session with the Planning Commission and discuss and adopt the 2021-2022 annual budget, plus this other item that you'll have before you that we've already discussed. Thursday, June 24th, 2021 at 5:30 via teleconference. And now we are going into a closed session portion of this meeting. So thank you, everyone, and have a good rest of your evening.